What's up everyone, Steven here with TechMaker.tv. This is building a decentralized chat application with Node JS and aleph.im part 15. In the past episodes, we've gone ahead and set up channels. We have the ability to create channels and post messages to channels, and people now have the ability to join channels. So that's kind of the core features, but there's some other aspects to this. Obviously, we need to work on the user interface and a lot of the interactions. And as I've said before, I don't know exactly where we're going to go with all of that, but I want to kind of figure out how to do one final aspect of the data model, and it has to do with private channels. So right now, everything is public, so anybody can join any channel and jump in and just start talking. People could spam channels. There's no way to remove anybody from a channel, anything like that. And we're not going to build out a full authentication strategy here, but I wanted to at least explore the idea of how to have a decentralized private channel. So I'm not going to obviously build all of this out in this video. This is going to be the next several videos of kind of exploring this idea. And the truth is, I haven't fully figured out exactly how it's going to work yet. I have a rough idea, but I want to talk you through the problem in this video back over here with our handy data model diagram that we drew, just so you can kind of see why this is a problem and what we might be able to do about it. Okay, so typically whenever we have, do we have shapes over here? I think we should have like squares and stuff, right? Okay, so let's get a circle. This is going to look way better than my circle. I don't know why I couldn't find that last time. Okay, cool. So that's going to be a circle here, and we're going to type server like this. Okay, so I'm going to show you the typical architecture of a lot of web applications, and obviously the design here doesn't matter, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to get a rectangle and put this here, and then we're going to put some text like so and kind of center like this. Okay, and then do I have like, well, let's just do like this. Okay, so let's say you have like a web request. So this is how a typical application works. You type something in the server or into the web browser. It goes to the server and it says, what are the parameters? Like, what are you searching for? What are you trying to do? Are you logging in? Whatever. And it handles that in some kind of code in like Rails would be called a controller or something like that. And along the way, the server may talk to the database and then get some information back from the database. And then at the end, the server sort of parses it and it sends back some kind of response to the user. Now this may be JSON or HTML or whatever, but essentially you have this server. So if you've done anything with development, then you know this is extremely basic stuff, right? So the thing about a typical architecture is the database has sort of this wall around it. So nobody can see what's in the database directly, and nobody can talk to the database directly because it's protected via password and so on and so forth. And your server or potentially servers are given permission to talk to the database. So everybody's got to go through the server, which is essentially one of its roles is kind of a gatekeeper to the database, among other things. So let's take a look now at what happens with decentralized data and why this is such a hard problem. Okay, so let me see. Sorry, I gotta delete all this crap. Can I like drag and delete everything? That's much faster. Okay. Can I zoom in like so I have way more space? That would be handy. So this is not, the official Aleph architecture spec or anything like this. This is just kind of me making up a simple example here. And I'm going to create, let's say there's 5 data nodes. And these are kind of decentralized databases. And this is what we've been posting to, right? So what we're doing basically is we're saying, okay, I'm going to post a message to this node. And then what happens is that data gets shared around, and I don't know the exact protocol. It probably doesn't actually look like this, but it's getting shared around to all of the nodes so that all of the data is everywhere. As far as I understand it, that's how it works. I could be slightly wrong here, but I'm not sure. I think that's basically how it works. And I don't know how Aleph works specifically in terms of the internals, so I'm not going to try to describe that to you here, but it's some kind of decentralized thing like this. So in a blockchain, you've got this thing happening where you have this thing called a gossip protocol, where you post some data to a node, and then all the data gets shared around via the gossip protocol, and then there's some kind of consensus mechanism which makes sure the data is always in agreement. I don't know how that works on Aleph. I assume there's something like that, and I'm going to dig into it a bit more. But just the thing you have to remember for the specifics of this conversation is when we post here, it gets shared around everywhere, and all of these databases are publicly viewable. So what that means is there's no server, there's no guardian, so to speak, for you to say like, okay, who's allowed to see what? So if you put something in here, anybody can see it. And beyond that, let's say that this is, let's just hypothetically say this is like post a message to a private channel called TechMaker Private, right? So we post this message here. There's literally nothing, because essentially what this means is we have some JSON data structure. That we're, like, you know, you've seen in the previous episodes, we post to a channel, so on and so forth. There's literally nothing we can do as far as I know, and I could be wrong, and I'm going to, again, research this, and if somebody knows something, feel free to post a comment or point me towards some resource or something. But as far as I understand, there's nothing that would stop somebody else from coming in here and posting, like, you know, let's put this up here and be like, post message to a private channel, and maybe this guy's not a member or gal is not a member. So anybody can jump into any private channel. Even if we make it sort of application specific to us, there's really not much we can do about it if we actually want to hide the information. So here's what I mean. Specifically, we could, inside of our Node JS application, keep a local record of who's allowed to post in our private channel, right? And then inside any running copies of our application, we could have the logic that filters out irrelevant information. We could do that. But since it's all public, anybody could build their own user interface on top of our data structure and start inserting data. And it might not show up in our app, maybe we're filtering out, but people will still see it, so it's not really private. So to summarize, basically we have two problems, and I think I'm kind of circling how to explain these things a little bit better here. I'm kind of working this out as we go, so you kind of see my live thought process, but I think we have two problems. The first problem is all data is publicly readable, right? Second problem, this text thing is kind of weird. Sorry, it's tripping me up when I type and it starts off giant and then gets smaller. The second problem is that anybody can post to our channel, right? So as far as I understand, the second problem here isn't necessarily solvable at this level over here, right? Because what are you going to do about it? Anybody could post to the network and you don't really have control over who's doing that. I think what you have to do is on the application side, you can control your user experience, and you can say, okay, I'm going to have a list of allowed addresses in this channel. And if it doesn't come from one of those addresses, I'm just filtering it out of the user interface. So you could do that. And I think that's probably a decent solution. The first problem here, though, is a lot harder. So basically, you've got data that you don't want other people to see, but you're trying to store it in this public environment. And so let me see if I can zoom out here. So what I had in mind and what I think I want to do is basically, well, what I was thinking to do is actually encrypt the message and then have the message, the encryption key, be stored on our application. Now, this creates a really interesting sort of problem, right? Because now why are we trying to do this in some kind of decentralized way, right? Like, what's the point? If you're going to encrypt it and you're going to have the encryption key on your server, you kind of defeat the purpose. And so I'm investigating some other ideas. I'm thinking potentially a system like Cipher, where you can have, let's actually pull that up really quick. Let's just look. I mean, basically, the last time I looked at this site was a little while ago. But essentially, you can see cryptographic infrastructure for privacy preserving applications. You can do secrets management. I haven't done too much in here yet, and so I haven't really confirmed that this can solve our problem. But I think there could be a way using Cipher to actually have some kind of secret encryption keys or something like that, and then you share with trusted parties. So what that would literally mean, if it works, and again, that's an if at this point because I have never done this exactly, is that the actual content of the messages that we're posting in these private channels are encrypted. So on the network, nobody's going to know what's in there. It's just going to be a bunch of gobbled text. And then we could share private keys around to trusted parties, which could be interpreted a couple of ways. That could be like everybody who's in the private channel gets access, which may be the way I go about it if it's possible. So all the people who get into the channel get access to the encryption key, and then therefore they can read what's being posted. And that might be the most elegant solution if that works. So I'm going to investigate if that's going to work. For the second problem, anybody can post to our channel. I don't really know. I've got a few ideas I'm going to play around with. I had thought about doing something with like, you got to get invited to the private channel, and then the person who owns the channel has to approve the membership and so on and so forth. But what I'm not clear about right now, because I definitely come from like a traditional engineering software development background where I struggle still to think about how permission structures and things like that might work in this environment. So I'm thinking about an invite, and then the person who created the channel has to approve it and so on and so forth. I don't know if you can prevent somebody on the network from going in and just fabricating their own invitation. So I've got to, and then updating it themselves. So I've got to look at exactly, like maybe I can answer this question right here. aleph.im. Let's go over to the site. What would help is if there was a way to say that the only person who could amend a record is the actual creator. Authorization model. I need to read up on the authorization. I don't know if I'm going to do that right here. Well, why not? Let's click over on introduction. Okay, I'll read up on this offline. There's an amend function basically instead of like post, and I'm not sure if anybody can amend any record or if it's only the creator. I just want to do a quick scan and see if I see it off the top, but I don't right now. It's always hard to like read, and oh, here we go, amending a post. So creating a post means creating a post object, amending a post, there's no documentation yet. Okay. At least it doesn't look like it. So I don't know. I'll have to reach out to the team and ask, and then read some of the other code and maybe just try it. If it's true that the owner of a channel is the only one who can amend an invitation, like if I send an invite to you and I'm the only one who can change the status on that invite or whatever, or something like that. Maybe it's a reverse. Maybe you have to apply to be in the channel, and I'm the only person as the creator of the channel who can say yes. Maybe there's a way to do this. Otherwise, it might just come down to keeping a little bit of local data in our application about who's part of the channel. That's possible. I don't like that, because then how do you actually let the other people in the network know? It's also possible that you keep a list. Maybe this is the trick. Maybe you've got to keep the list of people who are in the network encrypted, and then administrators can add people to it. So there's some interesting thoughts here, I think. So in any case, I'm going to work this out a little bit more. And then in the next day or two, we're going to dive in. This is a little bit of a hard problem. So I'm going to try to figure out a plan, and then we'll dive in and try to build this. Otherwise, I might pivot into something else if this turns out to be too much of a time sink, because I don't want to get too hung up anywhere. But anyway, I'll keep you updated. But this is the plan. This is what I'm going to try to get going. So all of that said, if you made it this far, I hope this is interesting. I think this is really cool and exciting. So I've got to kind of do some more research on my side, and then in the next episode, hopefully we're diving into getting this all going. And that being said, this may not be perfect. This is my first kind of exploration with this technology. So as you know, I said at the very beginning of the series, this is all experimental, just trying to learn and keep up to date with all this cool cutting edge stuff that's coming out. So in any case, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.